Well, having only begun about 5 days ago, it makes sense why we're seeing bigger and bigger winter storms in the forecast. Unfortunately, it's not just the winter part of these storms that is so devastating. The uptick in severe weather in general associated with these low pressure systems simply can no longer be ignored. The changing of the seasons, specifically from fall into winter, often does bring significant weather, but it seems there's just something about these storms that just feels different. As we discussed in a previous video, we already have the source of this situation out in the Pacific Ocean, about to make itself very, very known. My friends, I'm going to break this all down for us. I hope everyone's doing good after Christmas Day. It's time to talk about the weather, and we're going to do it right here, right now. Let's go. Welcome back, everybody. It is December 26, 2021, 10:33 a.m., and we got to discuss the U.S. weather, which is going to stem from this high-pressure bubble out in the Pacific Ocean. Now, if you guys were here on Christmas Eve, I made a video discussing this pretty rare situation and setup out in the Pacific Ocean, just underneath Alaska, which was going to directly affect the west coast of Canada, U.S., and then in turn, the entire United States for a few different reasons. Now, just to recap very quickly about what this high-pressure system is going to do and affect. Now, just bear with me for 1 second, but to understand what's taking place over in the Pacific Ocean, and then in turn causing these storms we're going to see, all we need to do is understand one little thing from hurricane season. Now, during that time, we have this high-pressure bubble that usually sits in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and basically just picture this as a force field. We have the storms coming off the west coast of Africa. They get forced down by the Cape Verde Islands because of the eastern end of the bubble, and all low-pressure systems revolve around the high pressures. They're almost like a force field, and this high-pressure bubble morphing to the west and east determines whether or not hurricanes, for example, will cut up into the Atlantic towards the east coast, or they will be pressed down farther until they make it to the Gulf. So in a nutshell, these low pressure systems move around high pressure bubbles. And now first I want you to notice that here on the big COD College of DuPage website, we can see that exact situation taking place. Low pressure, moisture, all those things moving around either end of this high pressure bubble. And specifically, we want to look at this area right down here because a few different things are going to take place. I'm going to try to explain that now. You're going to see a low pressure system rolling down from Oregon and Washington down the west coast to Southern California. Now that is the low pressure system we need to be watching out for. And at the same time that this thing rolls down here, the momentum of that low pressure system is then going to interact with this big giant ball of moisture. So we have two different puzzle pieces coming together, including the high pressure bubble, which is just sitting out here, forcing everything up over top or south and then to the east underneath it. Either way, both ends are pinching everything towards the United States or the west coast of Canada, Baja region of Mexico. And just to give you one more solid example of how this is going to work, we could see the high pressure bubble basically in the yellow color, and then we have the low pressure systems in the green around the outside. So as we move forward, we're going to see this one low pressure system in particular right here, and this thing just dives straight down basically to Southern California. Now the video we made was on that situation, which you can see on your screen now, and we called it a bomb cyclone because the low pressure dropped 24 millibars in 24 hours. Those are the requirements to be called a bomb cyclone. Whether that happens or not almost doesn't matter, because what we're seeing as far as the aftermath is very interesting. You're going to see this low pressure system basically become a severe storm in many areas for Southern California, the Baja region of Mexico, pretty much states that really aren't used to things like that. They could use it because of the drought, but in turn, what this thing does once it makes it through the heart of the country and then to the northeast is really something else. You can now adjust your eyes to just the United States itself, and just like on the other chart, you're going to see it come right down here, rolling down the west coast of Canada, and then touching Oregon, Washington, and then boom, this thing shoots right down into Southern California, keeping its momentum as far as a counterclockwise low pressure system. And now this is where things get interesting. As we move into Southern California and the Baja region, we now see the mix with the cold air, and we're seeing snow. And some pretty significant snow mixed in with this storm. Transferring over to the snow chart, that would be around January 2nd is when this thing is really going to start blowing up and making itself known. As of right now, literally on New Year's Day, January 2nd and 3rd, we're going to be seeing a mix of weather that will not be fun for a lot of people. You're looking at the top end major snowstorm up here. In some places, 10 to 12 inches of snow in very short periods of time. We have our rain and snow mix here in the pink. and then things get very dangerous for Tornado Alley. And we've been warning about this situation and different storms mimicking what we saw with the derecho that took place through Iowa once again just recently. Now again, I'm aware this is January 3rd. We got about a week before we need to worry about this, but that's really the point where you can start making some adjustments to your plans and things like that, because this is going to be a mess for about half the country. In fact, if I backtrack this here, we're looking at about 16 to 17 different states just being affected by the winter weather alone. That's not even counting the severe weather, which could extend through Chesapeake Bay all the way up through New Jersey by the time we are done with this situation. I know I'm throwing a lot of info at you guys right now, and a lot of this might change. We have overall ideas of what we're going to see, but what we're looking at right now are the peak areas of this low pressure system. So January 1st is going to be when that thing really starts ramping up and mixing with cooler air, and just as we cross the threshold of basically Oklahoma and northern Texas, that's when we're going to start to see the cold weather take over and dump some significant snow across multiple states. And now I don't want to get too much into numbers or anything like that, but you're seeing that overall idea of where the warm and cold air is meeting, and what's actually more concerning to me is what's south of the snowstorm. Now, if I have this set up correctly, I can switch back and forth and kind of give you an idea of what I'm talking about here. So once again, right across Mimal the Elf's belly button. Mimal the Elf is M-I-M-A-L. For those of you that don't know, a little weather trick I learned back in school. But take a look at this number, 994 millibars in pressure. That's a very low pressure that can sustain some very big storms, tornadoes, straight line winds, things like that that we just don't want to see anymore. And then, of course, we got to talk about the Northeast, which may take a heavy brunt of this storm. In fact, if the low pressure system right here is situated just underneath the Great Lakes, you can assure yourself that every single state north of the low pressure, we'll see some significant snow, and then anything to the south of it will be dealing with severe thunderstorms, warm Gulf moist air mixing with cool air, just the perfect recipe for strong storm. And now if that wasn't enough, we turn this thing right into a nor'easter by January 3rd. So within a week's time, that's a fair time to make some of these forecasts. We're seeing some very significant situations stretching all the way across the United States. We're talking the beginning of this situation already happening now, Washington, Oregon, British Columbia, Canada, and over the next day, that low pressure system is going to roll all the way down the coast. Timing is absolutely everything when it comes to weather, and just as that low pressure system gets pushed into the U.S., we then begin to see the aftermath stretching all the way across the United States, turning into a nor'easter in the upper northeast. So talk about an interesting week of weather coming up. We can basically watch this thing start to finish, and any significant updates during that time, I will bring you. I want to thank you all for taking the time to watch this video. Shout out to Canada, and I couldn't be more grateful for the continued support you guys have been showing me. It means the world. You have no idea. And I will continue to bring you this info non-stop. All right, guys, that's it for now. See you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye. Stop right there, my friends. If you have not already, click that subscribe button and don't forget to hit the bell icon. Click all and you will get all notifications from this channel. And trust me, you won't be disappointed.